first orthographic drawing. We are going to do drawing number 1 here. I have my drawing. It is in the top right corner, and it is oriented so that it is straight up and down. We're going to start with the front view. That's going to be the red over here. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to make sure that I have plenty of room in between what's going on here. I want to make sure that when I start it over here, I have plenty of room to do it over here. I don't want to run into the top here, so I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. So I'm going to go down from my line here. You'll notice my line is not perfectly straight. I'm going to go down and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go down 4 full squares. If I go down 4 full squares, it'll make me a dot so I don't lose it. You'll notice that it is below this, which is what I want, okay? I'm more than 9 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm 9 squares from this one for sure, plus 4. So this is where I'm going to draw my front view. My front view is this red one here. And if we look at our measurements, we'll notice that it is 1.5 inches tall, 2 3/4 wide. I'm sorry, 2 1/4 in width. We have a height here of 0.75 and a width here of 0.75, which just allows us to get 1.5 here and 0.75 here. So we'll start. I'm going to go my height of 1.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 inch, 1, 2, 1.5 inches, 1.5. I have a width of 2.25, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 2 inches, 0.25. I have a height of 0.75. I have a width of 0.75. 6 minus 3 is 3.75, and 9 minus 3/4 is 1.5. So there's my front view. I finished my front view. So this is my front view. Now I'm going to scoot up and I'm going to do my top view. I'm going to change colors here because I want to make sure that you guys understand that I'm not drawing these in here. I'm just lining things up. So I'm going to take this orange and you can just barely see it, and that's on purpose. Take this orange and I want to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to start right there. But you'll notice that I've lined it up, and if I do that with each one of these, it lines up. So when I draw this, all of those measurements are going to line up. So I'm going to start here. I've gone 4 up from this line that I've drawn. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to draw my top view. My top view is going to be this rectangle and this square. So I know that my depth here is 1.5. So I'm going to do a depth of 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1. 1, 2, that's 1.5. I have a width of 2.25 because the width of this whole thing is still the same no matter where I am. It's going to be, and I can just look at my measurements and know where it's going to come up. If it's 1.5 on one side of the shape, it's going to be 1.5 on the other side of the shape over here. I can close it out because it's a great big rectangle. And my last thing I need to do is this line here, which is the same one as this when you look straight down on top of it. So I come here, and here is that line, 0.75 from here to here. And there's my top view. There's my top view. Now I'm going to do my side view. My side view. I'm going to go over. I went 1, 2, 3, 4 from this line here. Yeah, I know I wasn't perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to grab my orange pencil again so I can make sure that I'm doing this right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where I'm going to start my bottom. I'm going to make sure I mark these so I know where I am. This one's going to go across. So that's where my measurements go. So I know that it's going to be this shape plus this shape. Again, my depth is 1.5. So I'm going to do a depth of 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1. 1, 2, that's a half. I have a height of 1.5, and that height measurement is the same for both. It's the same on one side, it's going to be on the other side, that's exactly the same. And then my top is going to be the same as the bottom. The only difference is now I have this line, and if you look here, if you're looking this direction, those two spots are the same one. And there's my side view. Now all I have to do is put my dimensions in. So I'm going to start with my front view, and I'm going to do an extension line from the outside here. Extension line, extension line. Now remember, extension lines don't touch. So if you see that I did, you'll notice that I made a tiny little mistake there and I touched. I don't want them to touch. There should be a gap in between. So my distance here is 0.75. Go up a little bit higher. My distance here is 2.25. I have my height measurements I need to do. My distance here, 0.75. My little arrows. And my total height is going to be 1.5. And you'll notice, once again, I made a mistake. I don't want them to touch. Sometimes it's hard for even me to remember. Now I have my depth. My depth is going to go here. There's only one measurement for the depth. 1.5. Should put my arrowheads. And there are my measurements. To check to see if I've done it correctly, we can look at our original and see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measurements. I come back to my drawing, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measurements. And so that one's done. Drawing number 2, orthographic projection. Again, we're going to start here with our front view. This will be our front view. We're going to start with this red shape. It's in that shape of an L. The only difference is it has a little cutout here. But when we're looking at it from this direction, we cannot see the green or the blue. So this one and this one are actually touching each other when we look at it. So we're going to start. We know that from the original information that it is 1.5 in depth, 1.5 in height, 2.25 in width. 2.25 is our 1.25 is this short distance here. So that's what we're going to go with. We're going to start with that. So drawing our front view, I'm going to come down 1, 2, 3, 4. Start right there. I have plenty of room over here. I didn't even count them, but I know that I have plenty of room. And I'm going to start with this, going to be 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1 inch. 0.5, that's 1.5 inches. We have a width of 2.25, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 2 inches. 0.25, that's 2 1/4. I have a height right here. This one and this one are both 0.75. So I'm going to go up 0.75. Have a width of 0.75 here, 0.75. And I should be able to close out this L shape. Closing out the L shape. Now, the only other piece I have is this line here, which is the same line when we're looking at it this direction. And so it's the distance. If this is 1.25 and the total is 2.25, when you subtract those, you end up with 1 inch left over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1 inch. Here's where that line goes. I should have 1.245, 1.25, and this one is 1, total of 2.25. All right, so there's our front view. Our front view is finished. We're now going to go to the top view. For the top view, I gone 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to start there. I can take my orange pencil again and show myself where everything is going to line up. And these are all going to line up at the same place. So I'm doing it in orange because I'm going to end up writing on top of it. I just want to make sure that I can see where those things line up. For the top view, I have this rectangle and this L or boot shape, whatever you want to call it. So I know that these measurements are going to be basically the same, but my depth is 1.5. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to go up 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1. 1, 2, that's 1.5. I know that this distance is 1.25, so I can go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it lines up 1.25. I know this one is 0.75, and that lines up. This line is the same as the other one, 1.5 inches, which makes this rectangle. This plus this, those two together have to equal the total, and the total is 2.25. So the total would be an additional, and it lines up, additional 1.5. So 0.75 plus 1.5 is 2.25. I can come down here. Now I have to look at my math. This one says that it is 1 inch. So I can come down 1 inch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 inch. And we're gonna close this out. We know that it's 1 inch here. So I close it out. And there is my L or boot shape. And there's my top view. My top view. Now for the side view. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm gonna skip over 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where I'm gonna start. All right, so I'm drawing this shape. When I look at it from this direction, I know that this plus this equals 1.5, and this total is 1.5. My height, this plus this is 1.5. It's gonna be a big square. So I know my height is gonna be 1.5. Oh, before I do that, I can bring over my measurements, and I will be able to see that these measurements all line up, and they are projected to each other. They're projected. So 1.5 is my height. My depth is coming back this direction. It's a total of 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Makes a square, just as we did with shape number 1. We have this measurement coming down 0.75, and it lines up right here, 0.75. And the only other measurement that I need to have is this one, or this one, either one. This plus this is 1.5. We know that this is 1. So I'm going to come over 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And here is my final measurement. So I have drawn my orthographic projection. Now I need to do my dimensions. I'm going to start with my front view and do my width. Take my measurements. This one is going to be 0.75. Put my arrows. This one is going to be 1.25. Draw my arrows. And my last one here is going to be 2.25. We have our height. Remember, you don't want these extension lines to touch the shape itself. There should be a little small gap in between. Start with this one, 0.75. And this one's going to be 1.5. And finally, we have our depth. Our depth is going to come out here. I'm going to draw my extension line. I know my total depth. Total depth is going to be 1.5. Draw my dimension lines. And this one is a depth of 1.0. Don't forget your arrowheads. And we have finished our dimensioning. Let's check it just to make sure. When we look at the original, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 measurements. When I come back to mine, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 measurements. There you go, orthographic projection for number 1 and number 2.